What are you looking at? Oh, right, the podcast, right. This is the episode where we try and make ourselves really unpopular. We talk about the problems with vocalists who can't keep it up. We talk about Sideshow Errol. No, Sideshow Knob in The Simpsons. We talk about urinating in bins in Bury St Edmunds. Bins? We talk about fudge emo. You ready? You excited? Do you want a crisp? Do you want a crisp? Do you? But once you've dipped it in batter, fried it off, I bet no one will be able to spot the difference. You're listening to the Beat Motel podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, and syndicalist, butty scrutux, angry flap, and foot biscuits. And we don't often bleep those words out, apart from because we're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on. Fuck, 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 fuck. Hello, Dr. Sam. It's lovely to have you back here. How are you?
When are you going to make that into like a dance track, techno?
Make you saying fuck just into a banging dance tune.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some swearing in on the first few seconds of the episode. Yeah. That's always good.
What a bunch of tits.
Indeed. Right, so
how are you?
I'm all right. Where have you been? Tell listeners about your adventures.
Oh, I think I've been on a birthday roller coaster.
Roller coaster of birthdays.
My child and wife's birthdays are on the same week, so it's a very intense week where I don't get anything, and they get
my lovely family, but I get fuck all. I have to make all the effort.
I get to see the joy of a 5-year-old opening a present, and and I get to see my wife enjoying something. I can't go to that sentence.
Oh man! So let's talk about. You're already giggling. What's that? You're going to finish the sentence, or should we move on to riff of the week?
Finish the sentence. No, let's not finish the sentence. No.
Right. So here is your riff of the week. Somewhere. Oh, the first time ever we've played the entire track. So anyone who's not listened to the podcast before, we can only play 30 seconds of any track because of like the law and stuff. But that wasn't even 30 seconds long. Who was it and why did you choose it?
I chose it partly because it was only 27 seconds long, but also because they're a band called Molbo. I think I'm pronouncing it right. They're from the Norways.
Are they now? Okay, sorry, carry on.
And whilst the vocalist, I'm not that enamored by the vocalist, frankly. He does this sort of talky shouty thing that's very sort of that's been in since sort of, I guess, slaves and stuff. And I'm not.
What, the blokey shouting?
Yeah, and like there's a Swedish band called what are they called? Viagra Boys.
Oh, I wonder where they were from.
Yeah, and it's the same sort of vocalist livery,
like Idols as well.
Yeah, I'm not keen, but the guitarist and the drummer have such great energy between them. The guitarist is sort of playing this really, he just seems to be playing everything up the top of the neck, no power chords. Bassist is basically laying, like a steady thing down with the drummer who's playing this sort of hyperactiveness. And the guitarist is this, he's playing these wonky guitar lines that sound great, like post-punk guitar lines over punk beats in a way, over punk music, and it has like a frantic energy to it, and it's great. And the guitar, not to take it away from the vocalist, but frankly, to my mind, he is the weakest link.
Vocalist, you are the weakest link.
But that's not to say that album isn't great, and it is great. It's just I always think if you I don't know. There's always a chance of just if the vocalist can't keep up, how long is that going to be interesting for?
If a vocalist can't keep it up, people are going to
Yeah.
lose interest.
I mean, that's why, these. Oh yeah, I don't mean to be too down upon them. It's just I want a big chorus now and then. Even fucking Dead Kennedys, which this band reminds me of in some ways. The wonky guitar lines are great. I mean, I really love the guitarist and the relationship between the instruments, but they weren't scared of a big chorus.
Is the whole album like this?
Pretty much. A bit more. Yeah, pretty much.
It makes Circle Jerk's album seem like a pop by comparison. I've just broken my pen, which I'm really disappointed about because I really like it. It spins round.
I'm sorry.
Ah, bollocks. Anyway, do you know what a Molbo is?
No, what's a Molbo?
A Molbo. So you just say that they were Norwegian?
Yeah, the Norwegians. Yeah.
So kind of possibly the opposite to the humorless Norwegians, the likes of whose name I prefer not to mention.
Oh, all the early black metal people.
Probably is almost all of them, isn't it? God, that makes people I know personally cross when we start talking about black metal like this. It's so unfair.
I mean, I have to say, what has become of black metal is pretty incredible, considering how shit the first few years were.
I think that's genuinely one of the things I don't understand. That if those early albums by Mayhem and Burzum or whatever were amazing, and I've got really good friends who think they are, if they really were objectively amazing, it would be really challenging to kind of go, but the music's so good, but they're just such abhorrent human beings. It makes my life frankly simpler that early black metal bands were all terrible shits and the music was fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like some Burzum stuff sounds like someone's trying to play disco, but they've forgotten to tune up properly and they lose interest halfway through the dance. It's just, what is this cack? It's not even like proto good. It's not like, yes, the elements are there, but they hadn't quite got the production as tight as it is now. No, it's just shit. Objectively shit. Absolute crap. And it makes it very easy for me to dismiss.
Really?
Right, anyone who's still listening to this, you'll be pleased to know I'm now going to explain what a Molbo is. So Molbo, I've sort of, before, obviously I've heard the track, but if I hadn't have heard the track, the way it sounds would make sense for what the name potentially means. So a Molbo is like, Brothers Grimm. So in the UK, we would call Brothers Grimm stories fairy tales. In Denmark, in the Danish land, they have something they call a Molbo story. And a Molbo story is basically, it's about idiocy. It's about stupid decisions, which I love. I love that you've chosen a riff that has introduced a word that's not only pleasant to say, Molbo, but has a wonderful meaning behind it. And that makes it fucking brilliant.
I imagine, I don't know if...
So an example of a Molbo story, they are Norwegian as well, but an example of a Molbo story is a shepherd helping well, put it this way, someone helping a farmer to chase birds off their land because the birds are going to eat the seeds, but in chasing the bird off the land, they destroy all the seeds with their feet. So it's that kind of like, it's not Alanis Morissette style irony. It's just kind of like absurdist, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so that would make a lot of sense because they've put their EPs up on Bandcamp, their first few things up on Bandcamp, and so their demo has a picture of someone doing the Sideshow Mel rake dance.
But when you hear the music, it kind of fits. It's like circusy almost. It's like circusy, but without being. People always think of that sort of really Americanized circus.
Sideshow Bob, isn't it?
Yeah. But,
we've managed to offend the first how long. First 10 minutes managed to offend people, fans of early black metal, but fuck them, and but also offend fans of The Simpsons. Great. Sideshow Mel. People screaming, Sideshow Mel.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you. Oh God, no! I'm just getting confused. There's loads of things. There is a Sideshow Mel. He's the one with the bone in his hair, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the one who comes afterwards.
Of course, it's Sideshow Barry. Before that, Sideshow Knob. I'm going to write that down. I don't know why that's amused me, Sideshow Knob. But this is culturally, and we've done episodes on missing out on music just because it's not in the English language. Culturally, the whole Molbo thing is really nice, and I'm basing this on the at least 40 seconds of reading Wikipedia. It's such a potent term in Danish language that it's against the law to call things Molbo in Norway's parliament. Like it's saying here that the expression "Molbo politics" is prohibited when speaking from the rostrum in Norway's parliament. Like, how many people got upset, or how repetitive did the phrase "Molbo politics" get for it to actually become like banned? It's like we've had a few interesting turns of phrase like that.
Is it a bit like a band calling themselves like? I always thought a great name for a band that frankly would sound like Molbo would be a band called the Spastic Society. But people find it really offensive. But you know, like
it'd be like the Spastic Society playing tonight with Jimmy and the Savills.
But it is that aspect of when someone gives you a loaded term like a loaded word like spastic, it had originally a medical definition, and what you're saying,
Mongoloid,
you know,
and
like who is saying it is a negative term in which context? Because it's a bit like saying you know, and some people will say, you know, like it's not a term that anybody wants to claim, is it? Like they all reclaim, like GAY was, gay was.
Well, queer is now like just a damn cool word.
Yeah,
and it didn't come from a good place originally.
But you know, so there's. But I guess if it was people with disabilities who called themselves the Spastic Society, that would be okay. Like there was a punk band here in Finland that didn't call themselves the Spastic Society at all, but they were people with learning difficulties, um, and um, and and you know, I guess that would be fine. But I guess if you're able-bodied and you're calling yourself the Spastic Society, it's not really fair. It's not your term, I guess.
I think if you're going to use a band name like that, you've got to really back it up by the music being really very good. Otherwise, you are just a joke.
Well,
you're relying on shock value with nothing to back it up. Then,
but that's the thing. How do you? I mean, like good music is in the eye of the beholder, the ear of the beholder, I guess. You know, it's a completely subjective aspect. Some people like early black metal, apparently. What twat? Oh, sorry. No, that was the right one. That was the acceptable one.
That was. Thanks for not saying the unacceptable one. I'm trying to think. So if they're called, so if it's become such a thing that you can't call someone mole, we're really upsetting people by keep using the word molbo, and it's probably deeply offensive. If you're
Norwegian, if you're Norwegian, please let us know.
If you're Norwegian and you are a molbo, then please write in and leave hilarious comments on all our videos, like all the other fuckwits do. So if that's the Danish word,
that's a good band name, the Fuckwits.
The Fuckwits. I think there was a band in Ipswich called the Fuckwits. There was a band in Ipswich for a long time called the Wankers. I was just thought, you know exactly what they're going to sound like with a name like that, and they absolutely did. So if Molbos is such a common word for idiots, what to the extent it's banned from the Parliament, what would the British version be? And we've already got the stupids, obviously. I was trying to think of a political one. I quite like the idea of the band being called the Swivel-Eyed Loons, because that was one of those brilliant things that was actually a Tory that said that, wasn't it? When talking about pre-Brexit EU skeptics, the swivel-eyed loons.
What was the phrase that came from the thick of it?
There needs to be a thick of it style
the
hardcore
Omni.
band.
There must have been a band called the Omni Shambles by now.
Oh, and if there isn't, then there should be. That actually made its way into the dictionary, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful word.
Or the Clusterfucks.
Again, good band name. Oh man, no one's. Sorry, this is really pulling at a thread and nothing coming of it. But I was thinking, right, idiots in politics. What are idiots in politics called? Okay, so the worst idiot was, not idiot perhaps, but just more of a fuckwit, is Boris Johnson. Oh, there is a band called Anthony and the Johnsons. I wonder if they were named after Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Probably not. Anyway, let's go for my you've enriched my world with the Molbo thing.
Johnson's is another term for penis, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but sometimes
it's
some things
Americans don't get that Trump is another word for fart.
Yeah, utterly bizarre. I'm particularly enjoying. I've decided just to enjoy the early days of Trump, just because it's just too depressing to do anything otherwise. And the favourite clip I saw yesterday was him going, "I had a look at the Canada." I'm going to develop a Trump accent. I had to look at the Canada trade pact, and I thought that's the worst trade pact I've ever seen. Who wrote this trade pact? And the clip then went to show Donald Trump signing the trade pact that he wrote. He originally did when he was in power last time.
Yeah, he ripped up the one that was there and decided he wanted to do it anew, and he did it anew, and then now he's ripped it up again. I love the fact people aren't even trying to hold him to account now. They just go, "Look, this is happening," and the world's going, "Yeah." And Elon Musk has placed some people in power to look over the expenses or something. One of them's like a teenager or something whose online name is Big Balls.
Gotta say, just enjoy it. Look, as long as actual world annihilation doesn't happen, as long as there isn't a nuclear war, and I'll acknowledge that a lot of really shit things are going to happen, but let's just try and enjoy it.
At what point is this just gallows humor?
I think that's you've probably hit the nail on the head there. Final word on the I keep nearly saying the Malmos. The Malmos. I want to find out who wrote. So Bob Kane and Bill Finger.
Bill Finger.
I literally just saw it on the screen and I couldn't stop my brain from laughing as I read it out. Right, so the writers of Batman. Hold on, I'm going somewhere with this. This is even more tenuous. What nationality was Bob Finger? So right, Bob Kane and Bill Finger wrote Batman, original Batman comic, right?
It was a detective series.
Yeah. I wanted to find out if they were Norwegian or if either of them had Norwegian heritage, because in Norwegian folklore, the Molbos are the idiots. And do you want to guess at what the smart people are? They're called the wise men of Gotham. So I thought if the original writers are Batman, God, that's just too fucking tenuous. I'm going to play my riff of the week and just stamp this line of questioning in its face. Here we go.
What would happen if you tried to play black metal with a tremolo pedal?
Oh man, I've got a pedal called a slicer or an envelope filter that basically does the same thing as a tremolo, but instead of it being repetitive, on the beat, it lags behind and jumps around. That was Ara with Die Das Wild Wasserfangt.
Great. Good. So far we're great, doing well in offending.
Let's just upset the Germans as well. Die Das.
They're about to vote in, the third. What was it called? Third wave of glorious fascism. I mean, it gets closer and closer to that Red Dwarf thing of voting in the 40th decade of glorious fascism thing, doesn't it? Oh, fuck. Sorry, that was pretty epic. That was cool. So
it's a great track. I mean, I couldn't play who I wanted to play, so I went to my Tidal and I just looked at something that I'd liked in the last couple of weeks, and I really like that album. The album's called Eiger and has a picture of, I don't know, I guess a 100-year-old, very old picture of people climbing the north face of the Eiger, which is, I always think black metal inspiration, obviously the early one, the inspiration for early black metal bands is that they were all twats. So when they got together in their rehearsal rooms and said, what should we write a song about? And said, well, we are all twats, so let's use that as a theme. And they did. But the idea that like so much time has now passed that there's a black metal album inspired by the north face of the Eiger is it's just wonderful. I just think that's great. It's like Gay Rear's new album, or probably the last two albums. It's all about positivity and positive thinking. It's absolutely amazing, rather than just we're twats. Gay Rear aren't, but those early. Should we stop going on about early black metal now?
No, it's just pepper it through the episode.
Sprinkle it throughout.
Yeah, it's like a fine dusting of poo.
Fine dusting of poo. The band I wanted to play was a band I saw at the weekend called Oina. And when I was told the name, I thought they might be like, there's a really good band from Colchester called Jotnar. So it's Jotnar, Jotnar. And I was like, well, I guess that sort of Scandi sounding sort of name. So I thought Oina might be the same thing. I thought it might be like, a Viking prince or something. Oina, the Viking prince. But no, it's Oi, as in O-I, and then space, and then nah, N-A-H. Oi, nah. I chose them, and they were supporting Marigold, who I didn't watch, but also went to go and see Splinters. Hello, Splinters. They always ask how the podcast is, which always feels like an odd question to try and answer. I was going to call them kids. I shouldn't do that. The guys from Splinters, they are young. Well, how's the podcast? And I was like, unpopular? I don't know. How is it?
Is it good? Yeah.
Well, we do a podcast no one gives a shit about, but we have a lovely old time.
You remind me that so the term for like if you have Andrew Laws Limited for instance in Finland is limited here is shortened to OY, O-Y.
Oi.
So
Andrew Laws.
I have a desire that if I ever have the need to start a company here, it is going to be called Oi Oi.
That's so great.
Only English people will enjoy that joke.
Skinheads out tonight. Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, you need three. It needs to be oi, oi, oi.
Oi, oi.
Skinheads out tonight. Oi, oi, oi. Skinheads missed his mortgage payment. Oi, oi,
oi. Oi, oi, oi. Oi, oi.
So anyway, this band Oina, I wanted to choose them because I thought they were super duper. Very charismatic. They reminded me of sort of some of the humor was like some of the punk bands were really yonks ago when you and I first met. You had bands like Goober Patrol, who were slightly goofy, but quite fun as well. They're like genuinely fun, not like being. So I think sometimes some bands like NoFX are trying too hard to be funny. More like genuinely funny. And they weren't predictable. They had a drummer. He was hitting the drum so hard the cymbals kept flying off. And I was thinking, why don't you just put one of those little twirly things that look like someone with big ears?
I never understood why drummers don't do
that.
But
the guitarist would stop playing, bend down and pick the cymbal and put it back on. I was like, just leave it. Just leave it there. But I couldn't quite So they haven't got any music out. They haven't got anything anywhere, although I think they've been going a while. I will link to their Instagram in the show notes. But I chose them because not only were they great fun, and for me at first they were kind of not quite identifiable. But if I described them to them, so the drummer sung some of the stuff. They had this brilliant woman playing bass who had a really cool voice, and she sung some of the stuff. And the guitarist occasionally sung some of the stuff as well. But they were heavy as shit, but not like metal. I couldn't place my finger on it until something magical happened in the toilets of the venue, which this magical thing has happened a few times in the toilets of the Hunter Club, where they don't get that thing about you're not supposed to talk to people at the urinals. People will talk to you. And the people I know sometimes. And the last time this thing happened in the toilets, I was there and I'd just seen splinters, and this lad just turned to me, which is bad enough at the urinals, and just said, "Oh, it's like having Bury St Edmunds, it's like having Bury St Edmunds little slice of Midwestern emo." And they were right. But this time, I was.
Were they pissing on your shoes at the time?
Oh, just fully turned around, had their hands on the back of their head like that. Just they were doing.
Don't care about.
They were doing
emo.
A move they called the sprinkler, just like spinning around in the middle of the room. But
so Midwest emo is like, let's say.
No, that's not Oina. That's Splinters, but similar genre, toilet-based genre naming. This guy said, "Oh, have you seen
Midwest emo? Like,
Midwest, like
Bath?
American football and bands like that."
Not Bath, Bristol. Hi, I'm a dad.
Yeah, Midwest, Somerset emo. It's all about apples, and I can't think of any other Somerset cliches. They said, "Oh, Devon, so fudge emo." Fudge emo. I'm writing that down. That's a phrase I like. Anyway, back to the point. I didn't really know how to fudge. I didn't know how to describe them, and then somebody I knew in the toilet said, "Oh, they're." I've now talked about the toilets more than I have the band. So Oina, if you do ever listen to this, I apologise.
You in the toilet?
They're really nice toilets, though. This is such a weird thing that the Hunter Club, well, it's now the Hunter Arts Club, Arts Centre. It's such a weird place. They've got a big bit that's like a village hall, and I've played in there years ago. Smells like a village hall, looks like a village hall. It's a village hall, and then they've got another sort of smaller room, probably 100 capacity, 200 capacity, not big. And they've deliberately separated that out from the bar, which is in a different room. So it's an all ages venue. You can literally be, if you're like 2 or 3 years old, they might question it. But it means that kids like my child can go to gigs. And there's a brilliant collection of kids who go to all the gigs, regardless of who's playing. It's absolutely amazing. But then when you go to the toilets, as you walk through, you go from being in a, I don't know, early 19th century village hall type thing into a stately home. You usually walk down this corridor and you go from plasterboard to oak panelling and a massive ornate fireplace, and the toilets are all right, but there's big carvings of Turks' heads, which is a thing in Suffolk. I don't know why there's carvings of Turks' heads in places. So there he was. I had my lad in my hand, and I was shaking the dew off the lily. Any more than 3 shakes and it's playing with yourself. And he said, "Have you seen Oina before?" God, if the band listened to this, they'd be like, "Who's that guy we need to avoid the next time we play in Bury?" "Oh, Andrew, yeah, that's him." And he said, "Oh, have you seen him before?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, the last time they played was the rehearsal rooms, and they were a 5-piece, and they hadn't really sort of quite found their feet yet." And I was like, "What?" He said, "Well, the drummer's obsessed with Dillinger Escape Plan." And I went, the penny dropped. That was the longest way ever to tell you they sounded like Dillinger Escape Plan. So
this time you were pissing on their shoes.
Oh, it was my turn to shake his. I'd already shaken my own, and the hand was still jittering away, so I thought I might make use. So that's what I mean by that's what I mean. It feels like a
Yourself.
new low. So yeah, they were heavy,
So,
but not
if you're
metal.
ever in Bury St Edmunds and you value your privacy, just hold it.
Just hold it in. Just
Hold it in
don't go.
until you get to like a car park or something, and then have a piss on a Maserati.
I saw somebody having a piss just up against the building. Anyone listening to this isn't going to see it. You can't really see it on the video. There's an industrial building here, and I've had this glamorous Studio A for years, and it's an alleyway basically. And there was some guy pissing against the wall yesterday, and I was going to hammer on the window to see if I could make him jump. And I just thought that would just be really mean. So I didn't do it because sometimes I do have a filter, just not when talking to people at urinals. So there's a good 10 or 15 minutes talking about Oina, which won't do him any favours at all. So I'm probably not going to tell him I did it. But they were cool anyway. The reason I did want to mention them is they were that lovely type of band that gets how important it is to be a decent human being if you're in a band. I was talking to Seymour Quigley, who's the promoter. He was in a band called Miss Black America, who were decent, and we were talking about the fact, because I'm a promoter as well, how we were saying, how do idiots in bands, how do unpleasant people in bands survive? Because if you're a promoter, you just don't book them again. You're a twat. I'm not going to put you on again. Like, I've had that happen a few times, but then I am a twat, so it's only fair. I can't even remember where I'm going with this.
Well, we skip to the theme of the week.
We probably should. Oh, that was it. Oina, they were friendly and chatty and engaging. And the next band played, Splinters, and all three members of Oina were literally at the front of the stage to watch them. And that is badass. The person who was on first was all right and may have had reasons for leaving early, but I still think if you play your set and leave, then you don't get it, really.
No.
I mean, I did that on, just to contradict myself, my band, we did that on New Year's Eve, but it's because we've all got kids and it's a New Year's Eve gig, so it was a bit different. Right, the theme this week is genitals in toilets. It's not. Well, it is, because we've talked about fucking half an hour before even getting to the theme of the episode. What's the actual theme of the episode, Sam?
Oh, albums that should have been EPs. But I think just long-winded shit that should have been edited before it met the general public.
And I decided not to include my own band, one of my older bands, in this, because we definitely did that.
Oh, I should have done that.
Oh, that would have been but I would have seen it. You ought to clip up the show one week, so I don't know what's coming.
I'll do it all about your bands.
That would be so bad. So the theme should have been an EP, not an album, and I'll come up with a better title. But this is your first choice, Dr. Sam.
Like the night is ours to know. Let me take you on a midnight ride, baby, you and I. Ooh, so much we could explore. Pull me closer under moonlit skies, fire in your eyes. Ooh, you got me burning.
Beep, beep. Each time I hear this person, they sound less country than the time before.
I mean, my problem with this is that you put out a great album. It's Orville Peck.
With?
You put out on that track, it's
Kylie. Yeah,
and the Kylie and the Minogues.
Mm-hmm, the Kylie Minogue.
And 3 years ago now, he put out a fantastic album called Bronco, and and he's not got the highest sort of output rate, but when he previously put out an album, it sort of hit big. This time, he basically did a covers album, which I always feel is a bit not, unless you're actually really going to really take the covers apart and then sort of put them back together in your own voice. I'm not a massive fan of that. it just feels a bit, and it's a covers album with friends, and it just feels a bit starfuckery. And I, you know,
A bit starfuckery.
yeah, and he's got a great voice, but it's sort of like half of these tracks probably should have been kept for something in a few years, and there's a few great ones, but they're sort of like it's a very hit and miss piece, and it feels a bit starfuckery, and it should have just been, I don't know, I just feel like it should have been it should be a stopgap between that and a proper album. And I don't know if he's got writer's block or he's just really enjoying the position he's got all of a sudden. And I can't blame him for that at all, but
It kind of
bit,
smacks of contractual obligation, like a band that puts out a live album for no
yeah.
particular reason. Like, we've got to finish this contract up so we can go get another one. Okay, so if all that willy talk and black metal slander, it's not slander because it's true, they are bell ends, early black metal, just for context, because this clip will go out with just that. And I don't give a shit. What they're going to do, burn me church down. So if all that stuff's made us unpopular, my opinion, the opinion coming up on my first choice is going to just seal the deal, probably. Oh, we're doing a podcast, aren't we? Sam, wake up, Sam. You've wet yourself. So, yeah.
I don't normally sleep through that bit of the night. So that's the Sun-O's, I guess, the Suns.
The Suns and the O's, yeah. And that song is Big Church, Megacenthal Tethalian Eketeselesin Alenthe Seke Seke. Do you know what? I'm gonna see if I can get. Oh, I can't be asked. I was going to see if I could get Google to say that, but I really can't be fucked.
I thought it started out, I was like, oh, what's this? Big vocals sound great. And then, their signature guitar wall came in, and I just thought, oh, this isn't going to go anywhere interesting.
So this is, Sun-O, and it's from Monoliths and Dimensions, which we've both seen live. And live, I don't mind a bit of Sun-O live. I had congested sinuses when I saw them, and they cleared them out.
I think live they go from the sublime to the ridiculous. I went to see them in Brighton years ago. The first time I've actually paid to see them, and half of it was fantastic. The other half of it was oh, shut the fuck up.
They played the Barbican Centre, and I was thinking, well, at least you'd have a comfortable chair.
Yeah. When they played in Brighton, it was all standing. So, yeah.
God, I like it though. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like it. I like that they've got this thing, but it's not so much. Doesn't need to be an album. It doesn't need to be more than one song. I mean, their whole career. Their whole career is one song, and that's going to make me unpopular. But I don't care.
So there's a amazing band called Boredoms who have. I don't know if they're still sort of doing stuff at all, but for a few years around ATP, when ATP was very busy, I saw them quite a few times, and they always did this sort of like they changed the sort of how the setup on stage worked quite a lot of times. I don't think they've released a few live albums occasionally, but I don't think they've recorded a studio album for yoinks now, to use my mother's term. And I think it works incredibly well as sort of like every time you see them, you're going to see a different project, but you're not, and they're going to experiment with how they present themselves live, but you don't know what you're going to get. And you don't know, like last time I saw them, I think Zach Hill from Death Grips was playing, they had a drum circle of about, I don't know, 15 drummers or 10 drummers or something like. No, this was in London somewhere, and Zach Hill was doing a lot of the soloing, and it's all improvised. The guy had a big stick and a wall of guitars, and he would just sort of throw the stick at the guitars, all tuned differently. And it was it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But would I listen? It's like, I don't know. I'm also of the mind of a lot of free jazz stuff is much better live than it is on record, because it's all about the moment.
That's challenging.
It's about being in the moment rather than, it's like if there is a form of music which is about reorientating your mind to being in the present, it is free jazz. And also most noise things, and Sono, I don't know, just I don't understand how you do not get bored listening to Sun.
The noise thing, you've hit the nail on the head there, because I put on noise nights and I perform at them, and I don't really do noise. I have done, but I put one on Friday, and no one ever does more than 20 minutes because that's largely enough. And I really love the events, but I don't really listen to it much at home because I don't know. It's just not the same when your eyes aren't bleeding because it's so loud. We had loads of people come along to this gig who I've never seen at noise gigs before, because it was included in Independent Venue Week, so it was part of that whole thing. So it's really cool, and they stayed. We do get people pay. I have a policy when I'm on the door. If people are like, I say, have you been to one of these before? And if they say no, I say, well, if it's not for you, come back. I'll refund you. And people do. That does happen, but no one did, which is really surprising. So that's it. Sono only needs one song, doesn't need a whole career. And with that, I resign my position as someone with an opinion people care about. So this is your next choice.
I'm just a man in the back, just a man in the back, just a man in the back. I'm just a man in the back, just a man in the back, just a man in the back. War! Fuck the system! War! Fuck the system! Fuck the system! War! Fuck the system! War! I need to fuck the system! I need to fuck the system! I need to fuck the system!
Why? I love how nuts that is. But who was it, and what's your objection to them daring to put out an album instead of just making it an EP?
Oh, this is it's an interesting one. I looked into the history of this before. It was a System of a Down with the song surprisingly called "Fuck the System," and it's from the album Still This Album, which I don't think I've actually listened ever to the whole way through, because I always just thought it was. But
It's got the pizza song on it and stuff, hasn't it?
I just thought it was the most, because they basically they got pissed off because I think demos got released on the internet back in the early days of the 2002s when leaking was a really big thing in the music industry. And apparently they hadn't finished this stuff, and they went in and finished it. But to me, it sounds like they could not be bothered to rewrite any of the lyrics whatsoever. And to me, most of the stuff just sounds like like that sounds like stuff from the first album, that song, and it sounds a bit System of a Down 101. And like, I guess I'm just I just feel like it's a great piece of music, but they're also a lot of the most redundant System of a Downy things with no surprise to it.
I honestly didn't even realize it was a proper album. So this came out after Toxicity.
Yeah, a year after Toxicity.
Do you know what? Because the artwork, it looks like a CDR that's just been written on with a Sharpie with black marker.
Yeah, that was the point of, like, they were trying to say, if you're gonna nick our music, nick the proper version rather than the shitty sounding version.
It's such a strange album. I was always under the impression that it was like we talked about contractually obligated albums, that it was one of those, and it was just demos or B-sides or something that had just been chucked together, and the band was objecting to the fact it had to be put out. But I'm
I think they
genuinely.
were I think they were objecting to the fact that it had to be put out in some ways.
What a
You know,
bloody weird band they are, because first album, which I don't know very well, second album's, I mean, it's not hard to argue that it is a bit of a stonker and quite a decent album. But to go from that to this, and then the next move to do twin
a
albums,
double. Yeah,
because
yeah,
it wasn't a double album, it was twin albums, wasn't it? So two albums coming out at the same time. God, they must have given their A&R man some migraines. Bloody hell. You're going to do what? Okay. But yeah, we need to rip on because it's move on, because it's time to move on. And here's my next track.
Because you're mine. Oh, yeah.
It's a new single.
one of the greatest standalone songs.
Is
You know,
yep, the new track by Orville Peck. That voice is so
so good, isn't it?
it's
And
so
the music
powerful.
that goes with it. The music that goes with it is so good.
Shit, how old is this? Because it's like 1956, I think it first came out. I'm not very good at sums. Shit, nearly 70 years old. Oh man, that's hurt my brain.
Oh, we listen to classical music, Andrew.
Right, so I chose this for possibly. I'm on the shakiest ground I've ever been on in this podcast, because I'll admit I struggled a bit at first with should have been an EP, not an album. And I have a memory, which may be a false memory, Sam, of you coming to visit me at Shea Culture many years ago and playing me something in the car that you said was from an album that Screaming Jay Hawkins released of the same song done about 10 different ways as a cash-in.
I think
And
I might have done.
I couldn't find it, which makes me wonder if I imagined it. You said there was a version where he's doing a mock Chinese accent.
Yeah, there is.
And
Jesus.
that's why I chose it. I mean, as I say, shaky ground, but having one hit song and then just doing it another 10 times and calling it an album is probably well, it was an EP, probably shouldn't have been an album. But did I completely misremember that? Because I've not been able to find any information about this alleged album anywhere online.
No, I can't remember what it was, but I am pretty sure that he did re-record it a lot.
Oh, so not like for the same album.
No,
Either that you was
it?
just setting up a joke. In 2003, you were setting up a joke that you're thinking one day this will pay off. And here we are, 22 years later, you're like, fucking gotcha. Is there going to be information stream coming? Or are you just looking at filth on your phone?
I was just looking at filth on my phone. Ooh,
Wipe it off.
Look at that. Look at that toilet.
It's in Bury St Edmunds, is it?
No, why are there fascist bum boys? Norwegian bum boys.
Yeah, we did say we'd sprinkle in the blackmail.
Yeah.
Early blackmail. Right.
Early blackmail.
Let's move on to your third choice, which I was quite surprised by.
Stone, complacent, ambivalent. Miscommunicating with shared subconscious. Suffocation. Modern life in the Western world. Suffocation. Modern life in the Western world. Suffocation. Modern life in the
So that was the Against Me's. And for my money, you haven't talked about Laura Jane Grace or the Against Me's for a while.
It's been a while, which is surprising, yeah.
And I wanted to bring it back in a neggy way because I'm not a nice person. And I just think it is their weaker set of songs. of any of the albums they put out. This is just I don't know. White Crosses, I don't think it's a very good song, and then the rest of the album, I can't actually think. I genuinely think it is the weakest album, and I think it was maybe that was their contractual obligation one.
I thought this was on Black Crosses.
Well, that was on White Crosses.
Oh, okay, because they left when they left the label. Obviously, they owned everything, so they released like the demo versions of their major label albums, and I thought it was off that, but probably not.
White Crosses, no, it's off track listing. Yeah, 4th track off White Crosses.
Okay, entirely right. It is a bit. You were saying about System of Down one being System of Down by numbers. I, much as it pains me to say anything negative about Against Me, that possibly is Against Me by numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt it was like the screaming. Laura Jane Grace's screaming was turned down to sort of being, and it like there's a great. I mean, Rapid Decompression is probably the best song on it, and I don't know, White Crosses, I Was a Teenage Anarchist. They just sort of felt like searching for a hit rather than doing something they actually wanted to like do.
It's very strange. The Teenage Anarchist one, especially people I know, were sort of quite offended by that when it came out. Yeah, it's difficult to say bad things about Against Me, isn't it?
But then I remember this is the day of the internet as well. So then they did, the next year. I mean, it took how long did it take them to do Transgender? It was 4 years because they went through a lot of shit.
Wow.
They went through a lot of shit, and I remember seeing an early video of her, Laura Jane Grace, doing acoustic versions of "Black Me Out," and I just went, "They're fucking back!
Yeah,
what an incredible song! That is, "Black Me Out" is better than everything on White Crosses.
It got very Butch Vig, didn't it?
Yeah,
and I can remember being horrified by the vocal effects, sounding like Kiss or Poison or something. Like we want raw.
It sounded like there was vocoder.
Mm.
And also I got pissed off because the backing vocals got completely taken out of the mix, and the backing vocals are the relationship between the backing vocals, particularly James Bowman's,
love his voice,
and Laura Jane Grace's sort of yelling, are two of the greatest aspects of the relationship. Is one of the greatest aspects of the Against Me sound.
I need to move on. But yeah, well done. You caught the fact we haven't spoken about Against Me for a while. So I'm going to play something I don't like. Now, I think people get confused when they listen to this and they think we pick like our 4 favourite songs. We don't. We pick songs that are discussion points. And this is an example of that.
You know what, Andrew? You know what? This song's about heroin. Did you know that? It's a song about heroin. Did you know that?
I believe it is. I think you're right. That's. I thought that would become more of a cliche when we first started doing the podcast. Okay, that song's about heroin. I think we discussed it at length with "Perfect Day" by Lou Reed, but generally left it. I chose that song. Go on, do you know who it is?
It's the Lars.
How do you know? Because it was such a massive thing.
It's such a big song.
I mean, it has gone beyond just being popular in indie circles, and it has become used for selling Butlins holidays or fucking anything on telly adverts.
I, as a young boy, as a young teen, a teenager who was grasping for an identity and getting more and more into sort of British cultural identity music sort of stuff, I really liked Cast.
Oh,
And
jeebus, that surprises me. That genuinely... Cool, carry on.
no, and so you get into that thing, and also the Lars have a great mythology behind them because of like looking for vintage equipment where the dust was like vintagely 60s and shit like that. That sort of mythology behind that their album is fantastic.
What Cast album or the Lars album?
The Lars album.
See, the reason I chose it is, again, I'm on shaky ground here because I'm going from memories of me being a teenager. That when the album came out, the band disowned it because they were taking a while to get around to actually recording the album, possibly due to the heroin. So the label just...
They recorded the album about 3 times.
Okay, so I assumed that the label... I remember at the time the label just took the 3 EPs that came out before and smushed them together at an album. There you go, fuck it, the album's out. So I'm completely...
pretty much.
Oh, that is what happened, was it?
Oh, I don't know
I'm
what...
sorry, I keep
don't
losing
know
my track because I'm so amazed you know more. You know so much about this. Tell me more.
I know I bought the when they did these 20th anniversary edition stuff or 25th and they gave you all the demos of it as well. They did the Lars version. It's like, oh, really, I'm interested in that. And they wrote a bit of a booklet to go with it as well. And yeah, it was like the main guy was so sort of particular about the sound he wanted. They recorded the album 2 or 3 times, the entire thing. 2 or 3 times with 2 or 3 producers, different producers every time, looking for vintage equipment, guitars, even guitar strings and stuff like that. Went really ridiculous on it. And the label basically, as far as I understood it, the label did get pissed off and just released something, and they've disowned it.
So he did a Kevin Shields. So the singer Lee Mavers did a Kevin Shields. Kevin Shields nearly bankrupted Creation Records by just the story. Oh, that'd be quite a good episode actually. Like difficult albums to make, but the story with Kevin Shields is that it's a fascinating story and annoying. They went into God knows how many studios. They lost master tapes. I think Kevin Shields destroyed the master tapes at one point. So I'm just making a note. Albums that were hell to make. Right. So I'm just putting that on our ideas list. I want to talk to you longer about this because I never really knew much about the band, but they're one of those bands I'm interested in their story. But I'm just so blown away that this is something you'd be interested in. But you constantly surprise me, Mr. Sam. Right. On to your last choice, which is this. So that is Who doing an impression of John Grant.
That's Franz Ferdinand with the latest album, and I really, really like the first half of this album, and then it sort of drops off when they go back to just being sort of a bit less synthy, a bit less sort of experimental, and they just sort of go back to being a jaunty pop band, and I just thought like there's an amazing EP in that album. Literally, this is sort of like the first 5 tracks, first 6 tracks, all brilliant, and then it just goes back to sort of being this is jangly, this is our post-punk stuff again, but not as good as we used to do it.
I haven't heard the full album, but that single, when it came out, this single, Hooked, absolutely blew me away because Franz Ferdinand did this brilliant thing of creating a sound that's a homage to something that's been done a lot before, but just somehow making it better. So that's electro pop, but the production's better and the way it's done is better. They just
really
make it better.
Yeah, they're really smart songwriters. But that doesn't mean every song they write is brilliant. And you know, they even do that homage to themselves, but they don't improve on themselves in a way. The song is maybe a bit more rounded because they know what they're doing, a bit more relaxed, but it's not as good as their, the first few years of stuff.
I need to listen to more because they're another band I've never disliked anything they've ever done. I've just not invested the time to actually listen to the albums, and I should, because they tick my snooty teenager music fan box of actually being interesting instrumentalists rather than just churning stuff out. And that is the reason used to be my only reason to like bands, if they're interesting instrumentalists. Then you can be an absolute spud of a musician, still make really good music, like Jesus and Mary Chain. And there's another reason for us to be unpopular. I'm gonna have to play our last selection.
The air is sweet, the summer flowers blooming, nowhere inside is there anything gray. Feelings of joy, I feel on the street, August 8th is a beautiful day. Like waking up from a fucked up dream, suddenly everything's looking good. There's been no permanent damage done, August 8th came right when it should. What's going on? What's going on?
I like this band in moderation. Who was that, Sam?
That was the NoFX, the Fat Rex.
Fat Rex and the NoFX.
Yeah.
I've never been able to pronounce their band name, the NoFX. And the song is August 8th, which is my wife's birthday. Which reminds me.
What
Go on.
album is it from?
Pump Up the Valley. No, Heavy Petting Zoo.
I mean, that one sounded like they were just phoning it in, frankly.
That is why I chose that one, because we've said a few times during this, like, used the phrase band by numbers. That is absolutely NoFX by numbers. Quite a bit, loud bit. The only way it's not like NoFX is it doesn't mention lesbians or dildos at any point, which is a staple of NoFX's oeuvre. But it has reminded me that, I said it's my wife's birthday, it has reminded me of perhaps the most pointless trolling comment we've ever had on one of our videos, which is something I'm going to read to you very shortly. It says, I can't even be bothered. Some guy I don't know is talking about how long he's been married. Not quite sure what makes me finish watching the video. And I just replied, but you did though.
You know what made you finish watching the video? The algorithm, and it's probably a click.
We've had some quite nice comments, actually. I think they're quite funny. We were talking a lot about Gary Boys recently, and that popped up. Right, so that was NoFX. I chose them because I quite like a bit of NoFX, but there's an accusation about NoFX, which has become a meme in the scene, that they put the good songs on the EPs and the bad songs on the albums.
Yeah.
Which I can see an argument for.
I don't know. There's a theory I have, which is, for me, this works for me, but for most bands that I like, apart from my absolute pillars of my, I can digest 3 of their albums. Any more than 3, it's just not gonna. I don't care. It's not going in. So, NoFX is.
You have a filter the red line mark in your brain, just labeled NoFX.
Yeah, and it's how much. And the problem with NoFX is there's that one song they write. It's why the punk scene get so dull? And it's because you keep pumping out the same old fucking shit, and people think that's what punk is. I love 3 of their albums, and I don't have the capacity for more than 3 of their albums. But I also love 3 of the Me First. I love the first 3 Me First and the Gimme Gimme albums as well.
See, my tolerance for them is not as high. I think that's a joke. Then you move on. Mind you, I love the musicians. I love the
I think
musicians
they
involved.
I think they do covers brilliantly. I think they do that thing of like they rather than leave the song where it is, they take the song to where they are. And I think that is the hallmark of a great cover. Actually, is that, and I think it's really brave to take incredibly well-known songs and do what you want with them. And I also remember seeing them at the. I went to see them with some friends. Oh God, 15 years ago now, and it was one of the funnest nights because everybody knew every single fucking lyric.
I imagine it would be. And Me First and the Gimme Gimmes also created one of my favourite and most bizarre bits of cover art or album art ever. So Me First and the Gimme Gimmes ruined Johnny's bar mitzvah. The booklet for that is, I really want to believe it's true, but the shtick is that they did actually play someone's bar mitzvah, and the audience, the family members look so bewildered, look so confused by the whole thing. And I love the idea because it was members of NoFX, No Use for a Name, so a bunch of Fat Wreck bands. And they were renowned at the time for having the best touring rigs and like turning up to play gigs because there was money then. Turning up to play gigs with incredible backline and PA and stuff. I love the idea of like them playing at full club venue, full club volume, while there's old dears trying to eat vol au vents and stuff. That's just great.
They put out a live album last year as well, which is do you know the ceremony of the Quinceañera, something like that. It's this sort of big birthday in I think Mexican, but maybe American Latin communities where they go big on the kid's 16th birthday.
Okay.
And they play some girl's 16th birthday. And I think they were feeling a bit shit because I think they did a bit more research this time and they sort of played music that the kids might have actually wanted to hear amongst stuff that they just wanted to do as well. So the guilt got to them.
The guilt got to them. I mean, it is, I suppose that's it. If it's real, like, bar mitzvah, just calling it ruins bar. Me first thing it was ruined Johnny's bar mitzvah. Dear. Anyway, we've run out of time, so I need to go eat and do a wee, which is going to take a while because I'm recording this in Ipswich and I've got to walk all the way to Bury St Edmunds to go to the toilet. Right, that's going on the list. That's going on the list. Urinating in Bury St Edmunds. Right. I'm really annoyed I've broken my pen. Urinating. I don't know why this is part of the recording in Bury St Edmunds. I'll make sure that goes on the clip as well. Right, thank you very much, Sam. I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?
Sure, goodbye.